computer. So today I'm profoundly grateful to share this conversation with Gina Bria from the Hydration Foundation and Kenny Liu from Spring Aqua. Gina Bria is an anthropologist and author. She discovered hydration solutions to modern challenges while researching desert dwellers, and I look forward to her elaborating on that. Gina has been researching rituals and ritual foods and nutrition hydration strategies for 25 years. She's one of the founding members of the Worldwide Water and Health Association with Dr. Gerald Pollack, as well as the Hydration Foundation, which is currently and the one and only really leading authority on hydration, really focused on this. Real hydration that delivers energy and restores cellular function. And, you know, she's got a passion about the latest ways to hydrate people, plants, animals, and soil. And hydrating is really one of the most potent and simple and affordable acts that we can do to improve everything. I mean, as she said, and I've heard so eloquently before, we are bodies of water, and we live on a water planet with reverence for water. We heal our bodies and our planet. And if you have a moment, please take a deeper dive into Gina. Check out the Hydration Foundation. Also check out her TEDx, How to Grow Water. It's not only blue, it's green by Gina Bria. It's really amazing. So thank you for having and being here today. And Kenny Liu is the founder and innovator behind Spring Aqua. Kenny has been an entrepreneur for over 20 years. He's an international innovative business maverick. Kenny has worked with nutraceuticals, professional sports, beauty products, and he's now sharing with us this amazing gift of the ecosystem in a box. So thank you both for joining us today.
Can't wait to have this conversation. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So, you know, water, it really is. It's one of the things that we take for granted, you know, not to mention the quality of water we bathe in and the quality of the source water our food is grown in with, but it's just as importantly as what we're drinking every day. And, you know, I keep hearing this concept, and I've heard it over and over about this 8 glasses per day. And, you know, it'd be really nice just to kind of dive into kind of that deeper dive of what does that mean by 8 glasses a day? Just where did that even concept come from?
Well, it's a meme, if we could put it that way. It's a social meme that started quite a while back, where we're looking at research which kind of identifies a study that was done in the 40s. And the misnomer there is, while they recommended so many ounces per day, so many glasses, so it really wasn't glasses they were recommending. What they were recommending was volume and intake, and they were including food in that. And then somehow we've drifted away from that understanding. So bringing food and nutrients back into the water story is going to be a huge shift for us. And that's really how I identify that desert people were more hydrated than we are. Without liquid, because they're using the water, the extraordinary water organized by nature, locked in plants. And that's what I hope the bulk of our conversation will hold today. First of all, that helps us actually absorb. Maybe, Chris, I can even do it in a better way. It helps us drip irrigation all our tissues when we bring food back into the water equation.
Love it. You know, it's when we think about municipal water and bottled water, you know, that's been treated with chemicals and piped through pressurization of water, you know, it's in contact as well with a whole slew of biological films, which ultimately disorganizes the molecular structure. There's energetic frequencies that are in those biologies and biological films. And, you know, all of these water, it almost becomes, in a sense, a toxic soup or a plethora of carcinogens. And, you know, a whole society not even knowing that they're bathing and drinking in it. And I really, you know, it's amazing kind of when we start to find these solutions. And, you know, when you tell somebody that water is carcinogenic and those additives and contaminants are government approved, the only way to deal with this contamination is to invest, if you want a life-supporting, life-giving, life-transforming water, which we need to drink and we need to bathe in. And, you know, that natural spectrum or natural flow of what we're communicating about today, when we say the word structured water, which is something Kenny and also Gina will speak about, is that we're bringing these disorganized molecules into some coherency, into a structure that ultimately, when you think of coherence in water, we're delivering it into its indigenous state. And, you know, Gina, I'd love for you to kind of open up, and as well, Kenny, however you guys would like to speak about kind of how you feel, you know, that living state of water being indigenous. I heard a lot of things that you said along the way, and I made some notes of them, but I'd love for you just to expand on what does that really mean, indigenous water?
Well, I love that you use that term. Chris, frankly, that's the first time I've ever heard it put that way. But I think that's a very authentic way to discuss it. And I think water needs a very large vocabulary to really understand it. So first of all, we have to get out of the idea that water's just liquid. That's a problem right there. I mean, we already know it's vapor, right? We already know it's ice. But the information that we were missing until Jerry Pollack identified this in his laboratory is that there's a cycle or a spectrum that water exists on in different forms: vapor, then liquid, and now there's this plasma-like or jelly-like state called easy water or structured water. I hate that term because everyone is immediately like, I don't understand what that word means. So indigenous is an interesting word to begin to understand it, but ice is sort of the last stage, and it needs obviously cold temperature to get there. But this other spectrum, water's moving all the time between these molecular states. It's flashing back and forth between these phases. And what we've done by how we treat water today is we have interfered with water being able to move into this jelly and plasma-like state. It doesn't have to be very thick gel. It can only be 10% more than liquid. So it looks like liquid, but it's a lot silkier and smoother. And those molecules now have bound together in such a way, they've reorganized themselves, which is where we get the word restructure or structure. They've been able to come together in such a way that now they can do the work of that phase. So water in that spectrum, water's so smart, by the way. It's amazing. Chris and Kenny, of course, knows this, but vapor does certain kind of work on the planet and in our bodies. Think about breathing. Liquids do certain kind of work on the planet and in our bodies for flushing and motion and movement. And big and the gel and plasma phase is where the most efficient work gets done. And we've interfered with that. By the way, we've treated water in our water treatment facilities. We were trying to get water cleaned up, but unknowingly we broke apart the molecules. We unstructured them or restructured them. And now what we're trying to do is use lots of techniques. Many of them are indigenous, by the way. So as an anthropologist, I saw many ways that other cultures were caring for contaminated water using indigenous practices like using clay vessels, for example, because the minute that water touches the ceramics, it gets an electric charge. And this molecular structure of the fourth phase or the gel phase allows that electricity to pass at a superconductor level. So now you have healing energy and living and vitality. And so we've got to get ourselves back to these practices and these innovations that allow us to recover waters. It's really its natural state, its natural hydrological cycle.
Beautiful. Kenny, do you want to share anything about that?
Well, when you mentioned the 8 glasses of water a day, it's pretty interesting because, as we say, the anthropologists looked at the indigenous desert cultures, and I was like, hey, there's no water out there. How do they get 8 glasses of water a day? How do they make it or drink what we have to drink to survive? And so when the anthropologists looked at what they were eating, they realized that they were getting their hydration through their food. And they're looking at the plants that they were eating. And inside the plants is where you get the structured water, the phase that's more bioavailable to the body, that's more work, right? So that's kind of opened my eyes. Well, I say, well, shouldn't we all be eating the right type of foods and drinking the right type of water, and also maybe exercise to help the water transport around the body. And that's kind of when my eyes open up to, wow, we really need to look at something that is that we can make or we can reproduce, that creates the natural ecosystem on how plants are making structured water, or how Mother Nature up in springs, how they're doing it. Because just from learning from the Hydration Foundation, that that's like the most important thing. I mean, it's not just good for your health or my health, but it's great for the planet. It's great for agriculture. It's great for the soil. It's great for so many things, right? And so that kind of was the wowing factor for me when I realized what structured water was.
Man, well, that's beautiful. It's it's amazing when you think about the liquid crystalline aspect of water and its electrical function. We always know, most people aren't aware, but you're diamagnetic. So your left foot's on the earth and your right foot, you've got a positive and a negative. There's a whole reason to go stand your diamagnetic body on the paramagnetic earth. And there's the same thing with these structures that the water's going through. And there's natural electrical conductivity, or they call it energy released per gram second in agriculture. And that's how you monitor and see what the cationic exchange is. And it's very similar to water. And, as we're thinking about this, and just like the aspect of, if I'm not mistaken, Kenny, the water filter, this ecosystem in a box has 14 different filters. Is that correct? And it kind of remineralizes and structures around a pH of 7.4-ish. And then it also has another adjunct to it, which it also creates hydrogen water as well. And, when you look at the concept of because this is really organizing and structuring the water, and in relationship to what does disorganized water do to the body and do to crops?
Oh, can I talk about that? I want to. Disorganized water is not able to do the labor of the body to the same level we need it. So I'm now talking about an anthropologist or an ethnographer who's looking at our culture and seeing what a disrupted culture it is for our biology, just straight up biology, no other conversation here. Just I'm coming from outer space. I'm an anthropologist. I stop and I look and I go, oh my God, you guys are freaking killing your biology by your practices. So these are and the place that they could have the most intervention, most quickly, most cheaply, most powerfully, not only for themselves, but for their property, their community, is to recover the water's natural cycle and let water do the powerful labor that it's meant to do. Now, of course, water's doing some kind of labor or we'd be dead. But if you just stand back and you look at the very sobering fact that now 1 in half of us has a chronic condition, including our children. Yeah. So that's next generation issues. So where do we intervene here? That can we get us more quickly back to a healthy biology? And for that, we're going to need good food, great sunlight, not living indoors all the time, and a lot of motion. We're an immobile society, so that whole distribution of that water gets through our tissues by, the body motion. And then we need to help. We need to be part of the recovery generation that gets water back to its natural state. So the water that we're using to drink and to irrigate is doing inefficient labor. It can't do all the work the body needs it to do. For example, folding and unfolding proteins inside of our cells. So doing lymph flushes at the level that it's supposed to do, charging up our electrical generation so we're brain bright and we don't go around or go to bed at night with that deprived feeling like, what happened today? We're just so fatigued and burdened by our culture and our environment. So getting the right kind of water in there that can start generating electricity inside of us is a huge deal.
Yeah, and for anybody listening, Gina and Dana Cohen wrote an amazing book called Quench. It's Beat Fatigue, Drop Weight, and Heal Your Body through the Science of Optimum Hydration. And it's so deep when you go into that and you think about that gel or plasma-like form, which we'll talk about in just a little bit more, but that it's concentrated at a molecular level and it creates faster absorption. And so basically it allows the health of your cells. It's really truly directly tied to the structure of the water that's inside of it. And, even for children that have a hard time, like you just mentioned, that want to consume water, if it's got more of a mouthfeel and a better taste, it's got more of a frequency, like we are resonant frequency generators. Water is a resonant frequency holder, and it has the ability to create more generative energy within us. And we attune to that. If it's deadened or full of plasticates or chemicals or whatever it is, our body's like, can I have that Gatorade or whatever else it might be? That's some form of, I don't know if that's hydration, but you were speaking about, it's interesting, the human body, from my understanding, must structure the water that we take into it to make it bioavailable in order for it to be absorbed. And Kenny, from what I've understand from Spring Aqua, has successfully replicated this process, which it's able to structure the water. And from my understanding, you actually are more hydrated by consuming this water. And I heard, and I think someone was sharing about how Gerald Pollack and someone else was saying we're the fourth stage of water, and by adding like salt and or some lemon or a sprig of parsley or celery, it has some energetic, you've instantly changed that water. And it's there, if I'm not mistaken, also spoke about, the author was speaking about eat your water protocol, or eat your water. And it's important to note that not all purified water or structuring watering devices are created equal, as with not all salts are created equal. And when I hear that putting salts in, I always want people to know that the salts, especially Celtic sea salt, is its source. It mimics our own body plasma, human plasma, as much as possible. And they really focus on the elements of calcium, magnesium, and potassium to complement it. And they look for a pH of 8, which is really analyzed. And, the sodium chloride is around 82% itself. And if you look at all salt, it's all pretty much the same sodium levels. At the same time, the sodium chloride, in combination with precise levels of calcium, magnesium, and potassium, that's important. When you're using salt, you should choose a salt where an element is a whole salt, so that it's delivered properly. So when you use a salt and that it has an improper balance, just like water, of these other elements, your body doesn't know how to deliver the hydration or deliver the sodium and the chloride. And it goes down to the potassium pump, and it has this whole effect with the nutrients, to where what's trying to go in and out of the cells, the potassium is really that driver. And it's important for people to consider that the salt that they're using has the proper trace elements attached to it, when you're thinking about creating that fourth stage. And, Gina, you were talking about the stages of water and kind of its ability to clean itself up, and personal, your personal reverence, and kind of that aspect of this recovery generation and recovering water. Do you want to share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, there's several points. One is when you get the right kind of hydration, you do not need to be guzzling as much water. So how you get water into your children is going to change. How you get water into you is going to change. So what we want to do is recover water to be in the hydrating state that it belongs, which is this fourth phase. The other part about salt that I just love you mentioned, because I recommend it too, is basically all you've really done is make a very diluted saline. When you put a pinch of salt, good salt, I'm talking about natural salts, you know what I'm talking about, the sea salts and the Celtic salts. Yeah. The rock salts, these are also salts that have been dried in sunlight. I mean, come on, they're absorbing energetic fields that are full of energy, which then transfer to us. And if we're anything, we are fatigued as a culture. We're exhausted. And so we have to figure out how to get our energy back. And water is a multifaceted essence. It's not only wet and moistens us, it's also our fuel. So that functional part of moistening us, keeping us, fluid, and then it also serves as our gas. If we are a being. Oh, by the way, P.S. all cellular biology for all living things is water-based. How come we weren't noticing that? And then finally, that whole cycle of recovery happens because we're bringing in electrical function, which now is not only matter, moistening, functional, it's not only energy, fuel, driving, it's also information. So you're getting the information from that piece of parsley into the water. They have a conversation. They start a whole kind of electrical generation going on. And then that you receive the benefit of that conversation that water is having with salt in your water, or with parsley in your water, or with, if you're drinking green tea, for example, all the longevity traditions. By the way, all the longevity traditions don't drink water the way we do.
Yeah.
You know, they're always coupling it with foods and fats all the time, whether it's cocoa in the Peruvian Andes, or whether it's all the high altitude cultures like the Tibetans. You know, they like, I don't know if you guys like yak better, but they do tea with yak butter. You know, I mean, we can do coffee with butter if you want to do kind of a bullet coffee idea, but start examining this and exploring it. It's absolutely it's delightful, and it will infuse you at a completely new level of your own hydration. That's why we recommend foods and salts. And we'll get to this like last part of the plasma conversation, but just I want to say, working with devices that also return water to this natural state. To me, this is a brilliant modern innovation. We need to get to a much more scaled response to recovering water all over the planet. So having these personal devices in our home, it helps our property, it leaks onto our neighbor's land, it grows everything differently, and it starts sharing that electrical field farther and farther out, informing all other cell biology, signaling to all other cell biology around us, the trees in your neighborhood. I mean, literally, it's amazing what we can do if we just get back into this plasma state. And that plasma state then is, you know, if you've ever had a sonogram and they put gel on you to do the EKG, the plasma state functions as the place where all this electrical signaling then gets conducted. The currency of water happens in the liquid part. This is just a sort of a picture for you. The electrical part happens in the plasma part. And that was the big news we were missing until Jerry showed up and said, hey, watch me turn on a light by sticking this wire in a gel plasma water, nothing else. So extraordinary, right? We're in a good place. We are in a recovery place. We just need to spread this. So if you're listening to this right now, please start spreading this information. We need to recover water, be part of the recovery movement, and then getting that water into soils. We unfortunately irrigate all of our soils with broken, disorganized water molecules. And those plants are struggling because they don't have the electrical energy. The microbes in the soils are struggling to do the work that they're supposed to do. And we can see our beautiful earth is dehydrated. That's what we want to be part of, covering that.
Yeah.
Can do it.
Yeah, we can. Absolutely. You know, you said something earlier, and I really love it. You know, just the concept of by hydrating, by eating instead of drinking a lot of plants is going to give you that ultimate hydration. And, you know,
oh, Chris, I've lost your, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just in that aspect of eating instead of drinking, you know, and eating a lot of plants is going to give you that ultimate hydration. It would be great to kind of hear or have you share just kind of like, what is chronic hydration compared to like perfect hydration, and what leads you to that coherency of receiving and giving of that life force, and what's your thoughts, both of you guys, that, you know, just around that, about how we can not go down the dry and brittle road of our cells and our fascia and go down more of the supple hydrated role, you know, and just any reflections you guys have on that.
Yeah, Kenny, you want to respond to that?
Well, I mean,
you have some great examples.
I'm a big believer in hydration. So learning from working with Gina all the time and learning from the book Quench, good book to read, guys. Everyone should go get one and really get educated. I mean, hydration in three forms, you know, from the food that you eat. Gina always says you eat a pizza followed by a watermelon, right? We joke about that. A pinch of salt to the water. From what we do, we believe in all three methods. We support all three methods. People need to add a pinch of salt to the water. People need to eat fruits and vegetables. People need to get out there to move and exercise and get sunlight to help the water be carried around the body to create the conductivity it needs, right? So from our company, we support all methods, every method that heals Mother Earth, every method that gets you better hydrated, okay? It doesn't have to be our product, whatever works. We should all be on the same mission and focus on the message of, better hydration, better structured water, and water recovery.
I'd love to mention that Quench has 50 recipes in it. That's the last part of the book is full of food recipes, because why? I believe, and I think I've seen from my research in the desert, that food is nature's water bottles. We're carrying around these clear glass bottles or our stainless steel things, and wow. I don't necessarily want to discourage you from doing that. What I want you to do is add a pear to that. Pears are extraordinary hydrators. Same with apples, all fresh fruits and vegetables. People are always asking me, what's the most hydrating? And I just say, forget that. You don't need the list. All you need to know is that any fresh fruit and vegetable is going to be 86% water or above. Like leafy greens are 94, 96. Dr. Pollack did a test of, he's done many tests in his labs, but he looked at the leafy green basil, and he saw that it's full of structured water, right? So just eating a leafy green is part of your strategy for bringing in nutrients packaged with hydration, just like nature intended. So the fact that we're drinking all this water without all of those materials to support it is very damaging to us. And that's why we're feeling this level of depression, depletion, fatigue, and irritability. Apple just came out with a watch that's they're touting it as the new hydration device that will tell you if you're dehydrated or not. I just say, are you irritable? Are you crabby? Did you go to bed just
That's
you're
right.
dehydrated?
That's right.
don't need to be doing that.
We did a test last week with the Spring Aqua system, where we brought home 2 bunches of kale from the store. We cut both of them, and we just basically stuck one in the fridge, as you typically bring your vegetables home and put them in the fridge. The other one, we put it inside the Spring Aqua water, and it got really, really, really firm. I've always done this with all my vegetables my whole life, because it's just like flowers, and the more hydration it has in it, the longer it's going to last. That bunch of kale that we put into the Spring Aqua water lasted twice as long as the other one. It took twice as long for it to start to yellow in the fridge, and it was from the exact same box from the exact same store. So there's something to be said for even getting that water to get soaked up into the vegetables, and rehydrating that. And just to shift a little bit, because again, you were just saying it, and all of these foods that are very rich in very high moisture content, they're a great source of hydrogen, natural hydrogen. And I love the concept, like out of nothing comes something. Like hydrogen is something, and it fills every cubic inch of the universe. And speaking about like molecular hydrogen and how it really penetrates deeply into every cell of the body, and it's fighting free radicals, it's harmful inflammations on a cellular level, the molecular hydration, the gas, it regulates anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, mitochondrial stuff, energy metabolism, all kinds of different things with the immune system. I mean, so many things. I know that Kenny's never going to go down this road of saying ecosystem in a box does X, Y, and Z, because we live in this wonderful country and all of the things behind that. But ultimately, when you look at cell signaling and what hydrogen has the benefit to do, where was that kind of foundational mechanism that came in that said hydrogen is an elemental piece that needs to go along with this ecosystem in a box?
Well, it was working with Professor Henry and my godfather in Taiwan. He's the guy who developed the EKG, the ultrasound. He's the Rubik's Cube toy, was the original guy who went to the patent guy in Austria-Hungary and got the rights to develop back in the early 70s. And so he's always been big into water, into structured water, into hydrogen water. And as doing the studies of the different springs, especially Lourdes in France, they were looking at the water composition. So when you study the rock layers, you look at the ecology, you look at the geology and all the good stuff. When they looked at the water composition, they found there was dissolved hydrogen in the water. That was very unique. And so that kind of started the process of them looking deeper when we creating our product, we wanted to replicate. I mean, it's interesting. You can't really replicate a mountain because the house is too small, right? So you have to understand how everything works from a process standpoint, so you can mimic what it's doing, and then you can understand the process and develop it into the different filters. So you get the 14 different filters to get the ecosystem going, right? And so it was that process when they begin to realize that structured water, like Gina said, it's the foundation to health. It's the most important thing is drinking. But then we wanted to add in some what's called the life promoting benefits. And one of the key ingredients that was getting a lot of good research, a lot of good data, also from the Molecular Hydrogen Institute, was the benefit of having hydrogen available in the water or something you breathe. And so because we wanted to be like the ecosystem, we decided to, we really need to investigate from the mineral standpoint, what minerals we need to use to make that happen. It's good and bad. It became a difficult project. It's not an easy thing to do. But over the time of years of R&D, working with basically raw material supply people and also the researchers there, we were able to include hydrogen as part of our system, right? Which produces about a 1.4 to 1.6 parts per million. And we've tested it and we know it's very stable and it's year round. That's the amazing fact. So we realized that's an important antioxidant. I should say it's a mega antioxidant, a mega anti-inflammatory, right? That's available to help remove all the free radicals. Yeah. So that's kind of where the interest began, was just researching what nature was doing. And common sense is, couldn't we make that available to people's homes and bring that mountain of spring water under your sink? And that was one of the key ingredients that we found was important to have the hydrogen as an add-on.
That's so powerful. As you just said, hydrogen is vital for all life. It's the third most common element in the human body. And it's a component of water, DNA, all the organic molecules, as well as all the macronutrients such as carbohydrates, proteins, fats. They all contain hydrogen as a part of the chemical structure, and water contains hydrogen as well. And this means that every food contains some hydrogen, and that hydrogen must be decomposed by the body to release that element and enjoy its health benefits. And if we don't have good digestion, or the way the food is, or whatever it might be, you might not be getting as much of those health benefits from your food. That's why these fresh vegetables, and even why you see this tendency towards raw food type of diets. But it's just, it's one of those things that we're looking at as far as that the healthy diet has that. And if you're needing some form of supplementation, this is one of the best supplementations that you could possibly be taking, especially if you're taking supplements, or if you're on any pharmaceuticals, or you have any predispositions, because you can either turn those genes on or you can turn them off. And if you've got that right free radical scavenger, this massive antioxidant rolling through the cells every day, you're definitely on the right track. So
it's amazing. Yeah, truly amazing. Because I know through the consumer experience that we've had with lots of customers, and I also know, and we offer both. And we have systems that just do the structured water, and we have the add-on where you can have it all, the hydrogen and the structured water. So it's important that we focus on the hydration, but also on the antioxidants. It's a great combination together.
Well, you've said something very powerfully that I heard one day, and it's like Spring Aqua is taking tap water and returning your tap back into a spring-like state. And,
Thank you, Kenny.
Yes, thank you, Kenny, for sure.
Thank you, Gina, for the education.
You both.
Yeah, well, I think that's such an important point, Chris, that we ourselves in our homes, in the society that we live in, have to figure out ways to help water recover. Right. And having a whole house device that can become a source of spring-like water in your home is, and again, I mean, when you talk about mountains and mountain streams, you're talking about rocks. When you're talking about rocks, you're talking about minerals. And when you're talking about minerals, you're talking about electrical charge right there. That's the lineage, right? So getting electrical charge back into our water, but naturally from rocks, from minerals, which of course our soils, we've unfortunately depleted by the way we've treated so many things, our water treatment, our soil treatment. So So having the benefit of being part of the story where you're helping to return water to these states, I just can't say enough about that. I think it's our work.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong work for sure. So
We can't wait for a climate accord. We can't wait for our government. We just have to take things into our own hands in our own local environment and do something about it.
yeah, make
Yeah, and I agree. I'm very passionate about that because when I first met the Hydration Foundation about a year ago, we knew we had good stuff, good product. We didn't really know all the education behind the science because it takes a lot of knowledge. It takes a massive collaborative approach with everyone helping each other. But Gina said to us, hey, you guys are missing the point. You guys got to look at water recovery on the planet. And we're so happy that people are drinking our water. But there's a much greater movement behind what we're doing, Dr. Christopher, and that is Mother Earth really needs the healing, and there's something to be said, maybe the mission is to be regenerative agriculture, maybe to get a few million people on the water and drink it and pee it out, but the whole water recovery mission is by far more important because without the ecosystem, there is no planet. We don't exist, right? So I do really believe in that message and really supporting that cause, and also supporting the cause of just find a better way to get hydrated. That's another. So yeah,
amen. Make water your religion, right? So yeah. So in closing, if people want to find you, Gina, if I'm not mistaken, can you go ahead and give your URL? And
yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
we're at www.hydrationfoundation. I put it together because it rhymes and you won't forget that. .org, because we're a nonprofit. And our mission is to spread hydration education to everybody we can, all bodies of water on this planet, and also to further to really help the soils get rehydrated. I think that's extremely important, and there's many ways to do that. But come join us, and I answer all my emails, Gina@hydrationfoundation.org. We love these conversations. Help us spread this information. Give your kids watery snacks in their lunchbox. Our elders. I mean, oh my gosh, if we can get some of these approaches and techniques into elder homes, and wow, we just have a lot of beautiful work to do. A lot of healing we can do.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, and if you want to share, Kenny, just a little bit in closing and.
Well, if they want to reach me, they can go through you. There's a link that you probably provide them, and they can always schedule time to chat with me on the calendar. I'm always available to answer any questions, to educate the public. I'm available to help, even be on podcasts of other people. So I'm on the same page as Gina and you. We have to share the word of hydration. We have to share the word of actual real hydration, or help people rediscover what real hydration really means. I think that's the right way. And also share people the greater vision is, there's been a generation where people have done recovery in terms of energy from gas to electric, right? But how about water? That's the biggest of them all. So that might be something that, as we say, we're the recovery generation, definitely so we take care of our health through good water, good food we eat, and also exercise. But at the same time, we need to be part of the mission to help Mother Earth as well. I think those are great points to look at. Amen.
And on that note, stay tuned for Spring Aqua 2.0 and when it comes to agriculture and the amazing things that are going to take place there. So on that note, water is our religion, as you can hear. And thank you all for sharing this time and space with us. We look forward to following up and continuing to help you become better hydrated human vessels for light. So
beautiful. Yeah, wonderful.